Hi scholars! Thanks for joining me for today's art lesson. Today we are still talking about Mr. Robert Indiana, but we are actually going to do a deeper dive into his sculpture and other people's sculptures today. So on Monday we really looked at Robert Indiana's life, we looked at some of his most famous artworks, and we took a deep dive into pop art. Remember, Mr. Robert Indiana was really into pop art. That was what he was most famous for because he would use really big shapes, really bright colors, and all of his artwork would stand out in the middle of a room. So that's what he was famous for in his paintings, but he was also very famous for being a sculpture artist. So today we're going to talk a little more about his sculpture that became really famous, and we're going to look at some other people's sculptures and kind of how they created them, what they made with them, and how they manipulated certain things to get their sculpture. All right guys, so let's go ahead and get started. So this sculpture behind me is Robert Indiana's Love sculpture. We remember that this sculpture is sitting in Philadelphia. It's really popular. If you've ever been to Philadelphia, maybe you've seen it, or maybe you know somebody else that has seen it. So this is, remember, a huge landmark in Philadelphia, and people just still go crazy for it after all these years. So this sculpture from Robert Indiana is made of something called aluminum. A lot of the time we know aluminum as like aluminum foil, like kind of that stuff that you put over your leftovers at dinner. So whenever you use aluminum foil, usually it's in the kitchen. So a lot of the time you can go find aluminum foil in your kitchen, and maybe it's covering up some leftover food. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer on the roll. So this is made of aluminum, but it's a different kind of aluminum. So aluminum foil is really flimsy. You can kind of move it the way you want to. Regular aluminum is much harder to manipulate. It's much harder to move, scrunch up, squish, anything like that. It's really tough. And so you can imagine how difficult it must have been for Robert Indiana to create something so precise like this. So Robert Indiana again made this out of aluminum, and aluminum is also generally silver. So it's made out of metal. So that means that this, before he painted it, was the color silver. Then he had to go over it a bunch of times to get those bright colors to pop and stand out to us. All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit more about sculptures, because a lot of us have never seen a sculpture in real life, all right? So sculptures, if you've never seen them, never touched one, and never even seen pictures or anything like that, you should know that sculptures are pieces of art that are not flat. That's what's so important about sculptures, is that usually when we think of art, we think of like drawings or paintings, but all those kinds of art are flat because they're just on pieces of paper, they're just on canvas, and you can only look at them, okay? But a sculpture is not flat. It's something that can stand up, it's something that you can usually hold, it's something that you can touch. And it's so much harder to touch a drawing because all you feel is the paper. You're not feeling the drawing, you're feeling the paper. So that's what's so cool about sculptures, is it's art that you can interact with. It's art that you can mold. It's art that you can feel, okay? So always remember, whenever you're trying to think of what sculptures are, it's always art that's not flat. It's 3D art, okay? So like I said, this is Robert Indiana's sculpture. Again, it's made of aluminum, and that really tough aluminum that's kind of hard to work with. But you can also make sculptures out of a lot of different things. So like this sculpture is not nearly as big as this one. Again, sculptures don't need to be huge. They can be as small as you want, or they can be as big as you want. Robert Indiana liked to do things really big, but we don't have to do things just like he did. So this sculpture that's made out of clay, this sculpture was painted. So this one, basically what people did is they took clay, and clay has to be very wet for you to be able to move it. So then after they molded it to get it just right, they put it out in the sun, and then it dries, and when it dries like frozen. It dries like super duper stiff. After it dries, you're able to paint it. So that's how they were able to get this really cool and intricate sculpture of a lion. Same thing here, even though this one is made of paper, See, you can use paper to make sculptures, but you have to do things to it. It can't just lay there flat. Remember, if it's gonna lay there flat, it's not a sculpture. So what they did here is they created a tree. It's all out of paper and cardboard and things like that, but they twisted it, they scrunched it up so that it could be used to make like a standing up tree. All right, and then again, they painted it afterwards just to make it more fun, to make it more artistic. All right, so let's look at a few other things that you can use to make sculptures. Sculptures can basically be made out of anything. So anything that you can find at your house. If you go to the store, lots of times they sell things that will help you make like clay sculptures and things like that. But anything in your house that you're not using can basically be used to make a sculpture too. So if you take a look at this sculpture here, this is still a sculpture because it's 3D art. You can still touch it, it's not flat. So even though this is just made of cardboard and glue and it's cut up into these different shapes, it's still a sculpture. Same thing up here with this lion. So this lion is just made of regular paper and some tissue paper around for the mane, for the hair. And even though it's made of paper, again, what they did is they scrunched it up, they moved it, they manipulated it until it was able to be this 3D piece of art, okay? But there's some other things that we can usually find at our house or in our classrooms that can help us make sculptures. This right here is a tin foil elephant. So here's the thing. Remember when we talked about aluminum and aluminum foil? Tin foil is the same thing as aluminum foil. It's that silver stuff that comes on a roll, and then you stretch it all out, and then it starts to get all these bumps in it. So what this person did is they rolled out aluminum foil, and they manipulated it, crunched it, until it was ready to look like an elephant. And that's why you see this elephant is so bumpy, because the aluminum foil got pushed and pulled and manipulated so many different times, okay? Same thing with pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners are just made of wires. So pipe cleaners are those really long, fuzzy things and have a wire going through the middle. And what you can do is you can twist them and turn them so that you can get these really fun shapes just like this, all right? However, you can use some other stuff to make sculptures. I know all the stuff that we just looked at, they're kind of stuff that's made for art, but what if we don't really have a lot of paper at our house? What if we don't have any tin foil? What if we don't have certain things? Well, basically anything can be used to make sculptures. So we're gonna take a look at a few of my favorites. So this one I really love. This is a sculpture, like a mini tiny sculpture of a drum set. So this drum set, as you can see, it's made of like recycled cans. So what they did is they took like tomato cans, they took like bottle caps up here, they took like tuna cans and other things like that. And because they're recycled cans, they're empty. So then they put them on these little tiny wires, they glued everything together, and then they got their super tiny drum set. So that one is really cool. I think that's a really interesting way to reuse stuff, all right? Same thing with these bottles up here. So even though this picture looks like it's just full of plants, it's not plants at all. Basically what people did is they found green water bottles or green soda bottles and anything like that, and they cut them, they decorated them, and then at the end they turned them over and they put them inside a pot. When they put them inside a pot, all you had to do is glue them, and you can decorate them even more if you want to, but after they got put in the pot, they look just like all these wild and beautiful cactuses. So it's really cool because it looks pretty realistic. And I think that's a really cool way to repurpose and reuse stuff. Okay, we have some other things that are usually more for like crafts. So you can use Play-Doh. Play-Doh is like clay, except it's not as hard to use. So if you have Play-Doh at home, Play-Doh is a great way to create a sculpture. It's super bright, it's super easy to work with, and it's not so messy like clay. So Play-Doh is a great choice. You can also make sculptures out of everyday things like popsicle sticks. So let's say one day you eat a bunch of popsicles, well, you can save those sticks. What's great about popsicle sticks is that you can color them. So popsicle sticks are just made of wood, and they're usually pretty light. They're not dark. So what you can do, just like this person, is you can make designs, you can glue them together, you can break them if you need to. So those are also a really great choice. And then right here, this tree, really pretty, it's just made out of paper bags, you guys. So all they did is like those paper bags that you usually get for like lunchtime or something else, Those brown paper bags, all they did was twist them and twist them and twist them until they were ready to stand up and they could reach out to create those branches up here. Okay, what's also great about paper bags is that you can just manipulate them however you want, and you can color them. So they're a lot like popsicle sticks, where you can do whatever you need with them, and afterwards you can color them in. All right, so all of these are some really, really great choices if you were ever to create a sculpture. All right? So let's talk about what you're going to do today for your assignment. So today, I want you to take a look around your house, and I want you to find a few things that you could use to make a sculpture. So you don't have to make a sculpture, but I want you to kind of use your imagination. I want you to find certain things in your house. Maybe you find cardboard. Maybe you find regular paper. Maybe you find tissue paper. Maybe you find Play-Doh or cans or bottles or anything like that. I want you to just use your imagination and try and find a few things and think, hey, I could make a sculpture if I put them together, or if I change something or something like that. All right? And don't forget, whenever you turn in your assignment today, I want you to take a picture or a video of whatever you find, and then tell me your sculpture idea. So if you decide that you want to use tin foil, you would snap a picture of that tin foil. You could say, I want to make a tin foil elephant like we saw, or I want to make another thing, something like that. All right? So remember, find some things in your home that would be really creative to make a sculpture out of, and then tell me your sculpture idea. All right? So like always, we have our two places to turn things into. We have Flipgrid, we have Google Classroom. Just like always, those are not changing, scholars. And then remember, here's your codes if you're trying to get logged into Flipgrid. All right, scholars? So don't forget, this is going to be this code is going to be posted next to your Google assignment so you can get it easy. And don't forget, you're just going to find a few things around your house, take a picture of them, and tell me, what are you thinking if you were going to make a sculpture? All right, friends? Okay, really, really good job today, everyone. I'm super, super proud of all the work that you've been doing so far, and I'm really excited to see where your imagination takes you for this assignment. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.